Hello everyone, welcome to Eye on Africa. Here are your headlines on this Friday. The United Nations say fighting continues in many parts of Ethiopia's Tigray region, despite a deal which grants it access to territory under federal control. The fighting, of course, complicating efforts to deliver humanitarian aid. Coming up, we'll also get a reaction from the regional president of Tigray, Debretsion Gebremichael. Laurent Gbagbo will be returning to the Ivory Coast this month. The former president, who was acquitted last year on charges of crimes against humanity, received 2 passports this Friday that will enable him to leave Brussels, where he is currently staying. And we'll take a look at how the wave of electric tuk-tuks in Uganda is not only helping the environment, it's also becoming a major asset for small business owners. But first, the EU Crisis Management Commissioner says the deal between aid organizations and the Ethiopian government to bring relief to war-torn areas is just not good enough. According to Yanez Lenarcic, the agreement limits aid to areas controlled by the federal government, which goes against the fundamental principles of humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, a Tigrayan official says several thousand combatants have been killed in the conflict with Ethiopia, as he urged young people in the region to, quote, rise and deploy to battle in tens of thousands. Our very own Nicolas Germain was able to speak to the regional president of Tigray. In a phone interview, Debretsion Gebremichael says there is evidence that Eritrean forces took part in mass lootings in the region.
The people are the evidence. They're witnessing, what's going on in Mekelle. But regarding looting, it's not only in Mekelle. Looting is done by design. They have gone to Adwa, they have gone to Aksum, they went to university, they have taken the laboratory equipment, computers, books. They have gone to one factory of medicine.
What is the role of Eritrea in this conflict, according to you?
They are part of this federal army. They are here with their divisions. Last time we have been said 16 divisions are already in Tigray. So they are fighting on the side of the federal army. For us, they are only the same. Also, Eritrea is another country. Ethiopia is another one. But when coming to this Tigray fight, both are same. We have a united front, against us. So wherever you go, they are there. Either in one flank or maybe echelon, but they are there. So in every fighting, army is fighting us.
In this conflict, both sides, the TPLF and the government, have been accused of killing civilians. What do you respond to that accusation?
Well, we are in our homeland. The invaders are attacking us, either by air or by artillery and by their soldiers. So civilians cannot be attacked by us.
We do need to mention that both Ethiopia and Eritrea have denied claims of lootings. Ethiopia says the Tigray People's Liberation Front want to internationalize the conflict in order to force the government into international mediation. Former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo will be returning to the Ivory Coast this month. That is according to his lawyer. The announcement was made after Gbagbo's passport was returned to him after his acquittal at The Hague last year. The 75-year-old had been unable to return to his home country because the terms of his release had forced him to stay in Belgium. Ivorian authorities have now given Gbagbo one ordinary and one diplomatic passport, which will allow him to return to Abidjan. Reactions on the streets of the capital tonight are positive.
Pas que je l'aime, mais le fait qu'il soit ivoirien comme moi, je pense que c'est tout à fait normal. C'est tout à fait normal qu'il rentre chez lui, afin qu'il puisse revoir sa famille, ses frères.
Le président Laurent Gbagbo a eu son passeport qui doit rentrer. C'est une joie pour nous, pour que demain on puisse parler de la vraie réconciliation. Parce que quand ça ne va pas dans le pays, nous, ça ne nous arrange pas. Nous sommes les travailleurs du privé. Donc quand ça ne va pas, on n'a pas de salaire, donc ça ne nous arrange pas. Nous, notre souhait est que le pays soit en paix, qu'on ait la paix ici pour que chacun puisse travailler.
Well, Gbagbo was taken out of his country almost 10 years ago after losing the presidential election and amid violent post-electoral clashes. The International Criminal Court tried him for crimes against humanity and acquitted him in 2019. Here's a look back at 10 years of exile, which is set to end at a time of new tensions in the Ivory Coast.
This was Laurent Gbagbo a decade back. the former president arrested and quickly transferred to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Gbagbo was suspected of being behind some of the deadly violence that followed the 2010 election, which Gbagbo refused to concede to Alassane Ouattara. After over 2 years, the former president was cleared of all charges in the first trial.
Orders the immediate release of both accused. No! Come on!
The people the judge tried to quiet down were the former president's supporters, cheering his acquittal. Gbagbo has kept a strong backing throughout his years in exile. He was barred from running again in this year's election due to a conviction in Ivory Coast. Meanwhile, at home, his rival Alassane Ouattara ran for a third term and won the controversial vote. 10 years after the deadly post-electoral violence, tension is back. Gbagbo's return could calm those criticizing Ouattara.
It's less Gbagbo and more his supporters, because the identity of being Southern is what's driving these people. Offering Gbagbo re-entry into Ivory Coast is an effort to appease his supporters.
But the former president's return could also exacerbate tensions if he chooses to join the opposition, who boycotted the vote and has challenged Ouattara's re-election.
Millions of Ghanaians are just 3 days away from choosing their next president. Incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo is seeking another 4-year term, but there are 11 other candidates who are fighting for the top job in the country. France 24's Sam Bradpeace has more from Accra.
There are 12 candidates standing in this presidential election, but even an independent I spoke to who's running for parliament, because parliamentary elections are happening at the same time, told me that really the race for the presidency is a two-horse one. The front runners being incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo and former President John Mahama. Now, John Mahama lost back in 2016, partly because he was dogged by corruption scandals and allegations of corruption. This time around, he's trying to present the incumbent president, Akufo-Addo, as the guilty party because the corruption problem simply has not gone away. Another important issue in this election is education. Akufo-Addo introduced free high school education for all Ghanaians back in 2017. That was a key policy of his, and one which is likely to win him support, particularly among young Ghanaians this time around. Now, most analysts that we've spoken to here in Ghana have said that the election simply is too close to call. There's no clear favourite. But should neither candidate, neither Mahama nor Akufo-Addo, win an absolute majority in the first round, there will be a runoff where they face off against each other once again, the two top candidates, within 21 days of the initial result.
And France 24 will have full coverage of that presidential election. Georgia Calvin-Smith will be with you for a special edition of Eye on Africa. That's Monday at 8:45 and 9:45 p.m. GMT. Let's take a look at some of the other top stories from across Africa this Friday. U.S. officials say outgoing President Donald Trump has ordered the withdrawal of nearly all U.S. troops in Somalia by the middle of next month. The move is a part of a global pullback, with troop numbers also slashed in Iraq and Afghanistan. The U.S. Army has about 700 troops in Somalia, which primarily focus on helping local forces fight the al-Shabaab insurgency. An anonymous defense official says the small number of remaining troops would be located in the capital of Mogadishu. Emergency services say 7 people have been hospitalized in South Africa following an explosion at an oil refinery in the port city of Durban. 6 of those were treated for smoke inhalation, while 1 other person suffered an injury while trying to flee the fire. Authorities have not said what exactly caused the blast. The refinery is owned by South African oil company Engen and is listed as the second biggest in the country. Tonight, Engen says the refinery will be closed until further notice and that it is working hard to ensure the security of the supply of petroleum products to the market. Nigeria is battling another outbreak of yellow fever. At least 172 people have been killed in the latest outbreak, which was first detected in November. 5 states have been affected: Delta, Enugu, Bauchi, Benue, and Ebonyi. Capacity has been increased in several hospitals to help treat patients who develop symptoms and complications. But officials at the World Health Organization say they are worried that the world's focus on the COVID-19 pandemic right now could limit resources required to battle this outbreak of yellow fever. Finally tonight, across the continent, there is a still rising number of electric tuk-tuks. That is also the case in Uganda, where the change is helping the fight against air pollution. But it's also proved to be a major asset for micro-retailers. Nicolas Germain explains.
The battery life is at 100%.
Mary is the fleet manager of this business, an online supply of goods to small shop owners. Its specificity is that it has started using electric tuk-tuks. This helps to reduce air pollution in big cities like Kampala. The firm is based in Kenya but has 40 warehouses across East Africa.
Previously, micro-retailers would have to travel downtown in order to be able to get the stock that they needed. This would cost them time, this would cost them money in terms of the customers that they were not serving, and also in terms of shop security. When you leave your shop in the hands of someone else, you don't know what's happening when you're not there.
In East Africa, cities are plagued by gridlock. The roads are often narrow with potholes. In this environment, the three-wheeled electric rickshaws have proved their efficiency. The firm negotiates big discounts with manufacturers who then deliver their goods to its warehouses. Its next objective is to deploy electric tuk-tuks in Rwanda, Kenya and Tanzania, and possibly West Africa next year.
That does it for us here on Eye on Africa. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith.
Reporting from across West Africa.
All the latest in politics, economics and the arts in Africa on France 24. Our journalists are in every region, every country, to report on the emergence of a continent of unparalleled riches. Bringing you Africa's stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. Dis again.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.